We're going to move over to how this is impacting the education sector. A lot of students have been at school for a while since the Haiti lock crisis. And now we're dealing with corona pandemic, which is going to escalate what students are going through. And we have with us Cassandre Regnier, who is the director of programs at Summit Education, which invests in teachers, students, and infrastructure to transform the world's most vulnerable communities. Welcome on board, Cassandre.
Thank you, Shaina.
It's a pleasure to have you, and really excited to hear about what Summit Education has been doing, and also curious as to how the organization is handling the current pandemic. What are some things that you've put in place to prepare your students, your teachers, and everyone who's involved in the school system with your network of schools?
Okay, I'll first start by describing a little bit what Summit Education does. So Summit Education uses a holistic approach to education by investing in teachers, students to improve the learning environment. So we work mainly in 40 communities in the Central Plateau, serving around 10,000 children. We work across sectors to assure that the needs of the whole child of the students are met, so students are healthy. We provide a school feeding, so each school that we serve has a school feeding. We provide preventive care and curative care through on-site nurses that go regularly on the school, at the schools. So our schools are very remote. Most of them requires 2 hours to 5 hours hiking. So they are very far away, and they also very poor. So we also invest in increasing teachers' capacity, improve teaching methods to transform the traditional method of teaching to critical thinking method. Our teachers training are based in 4 domains. So we want students to be engaged through teachers' proactive classroom, challenge, through problem solving, connection, using their surrounding, and reflection through morning circles. So using positive affirmations and then prepping them to get into the classroom. We also invest a lot in skills inequality, addressing skill inequalities. So basic academic skills, so for instance, literacy and numeracy. Literacy in terms that, so kids learn how to read in Creole, and then gradually we integrate the French because of the realities of the communities we serve. We also have a really big package. So our program is very holistic and really looking at the needs of the children as a whole. So regarding the COVID-19 specifically, the government has, once they identified the first cases, they took pretty difficult decision, but they put in place regulations that that would protect the students, but also inhibit the spread of the virus.
Okay.
So schools has been shut once they identified the first case.
Is this the Summit Education schools or across the country?
Across the country, the government had requested that all schools close. In Haiti, I think 2 schools closed 2 days before just because they couldn't control. Like you spoke before, there were measures about people when they were traveling, when they got back, they needed to quarantine themselves for a number of days. And since schools couldn't really control those, they just decided to close before really the cases start to be identified in the country. So our schools are closed. Thankfully, a week before, we had a training for our principals, our 40 principals and founders, so community leaders, where we talked about the virus, talk about prevention, and how they can limit the spread of the virus. So it was really on time. It was the best time to do this. And the idea, it was to have a cascade of training where they would go back to the communities, train the teachers, and then the teachers will train the students will bring the word in their home. So all of that.
How about parents, Cassandre? Because the students are going home, they have the information, and they may or may not tell their parents, and the way that you all have shared it with them. How are parents being integrated into that conversation?
Well, actually, it's the best way to get parents to change their practices and actually start, doing other practices to prevent the disease. Students go home and they share with parents what they have learned, and for us it's the best way actually to share the informations. Although I have to say we are working very closely with Zami La Santé because they are very present in the area that we are in the Central Plateau to see how we can continue to use the teachers because they are educators. So it's their role to continue to educate and see if they can continue to communicate with the community members, with the parents, with the families, and even support Zami La Santé in terms of identifying people that have been exposed to the virus, seeing really how we can support the whole system in order to contain
Your
this
network of people.
epidemic. Yes.
Karel, bon pour ça?
Oh, yeah. Cassandre parle créole. Um, Justement, Cassandre parlait de organisation qui lui-même a fait un beau travail, qui est le Submit Education. Yo est basé, yo fait toute action dans le plateau central et pratiquement, et yo même yo travaille avec plus que 40 communautés. Il y a des écoles côté que yo travaille avec yo, et dans pile dans l'école ça est très loin, c'est des bagages qu'on doit marcher 3-5 heures de temps pour arriver là-dedans. Donc dans une zone qui peut reculer, et parce que le travail ça est important tout, parce que le monde ça doit jouer un message. Et déjà avant même que le coronavirus là, gens que yo travaille, c'est que dans l'école yo y a des gens qui pour bailler soins de santé, yo y a des miss ou bien personnel médical qui sur place, ils apprennent si moun apprendre lire et écrire en créole avant bien sûr que intégrer en français et parler tout de comment que l'organisation renforcer capacité professeurs. Maintenant ça fait coronavirus là COVID-19 là, ça que vous fait c'est que vous partner avec Zami La Santé pour regarder comment ils sont capables de faire message là passer et comment les professeurs au courant de ça qu'a fait pour continuer et éduquer famille et élèves. Et vous pouvez poser la question à tout comment que élèves sont capables de porter le message ça by parents et il t'a estimé que c'est moyen qui plus efficace et plus effectif qui t'a capable de faire parce que si nous leur un message là ils arrivent la caille et ils porter message là pour parents. J'ai envie d'ajouter un bagage par rapport à ça pour être capable de comprendre la situation, c'est qu'en Haïti tout très souvent parents c'est pas vraiment à l'école donc pas qu'on lit donc les paroles là sorti dans bouche professeur si mon apprend lire l'école yo plus facilement quoi que si son voisin dans marché a qui te dit donc moi même c'est une méthode qui est très efficace.
Très bien. Thank you, Cassandre. And as we look at how the education system is going to be impacted as a whole, we're going to experience a long period of online learning that we don't know when we'll be getting back to classrooms. How is Summit's education preparing for this long-term consequences, especially in the communities you're working where they may not have access to internet or computers? How are you going to continue the education?
Yeah, and this is our biggest obstacle actually, and I think we are in the very beginning of this. There's a lot of assessment in terms of what we can do and what we should do. Because of the reality of the communities that does not have access to the most basic services, I would say electricity, internet, they don't have tablets, they don't have computer, it's very difficult. And also, most importantly, they do not have textbooks. Parents are not able to afford textbooks. So kids do not have anything at home to be able to continue their learning. This reality is very different from Port-au-Prince.
Schools.
It is private schools, but even Port-au-Prince is very different. And even Miobale, like the big cities that do have certain resources.
So in essence, there's going to be a paralyzed education system for the next couple of months because not only is there no internet, no computers or devices, but there's no books. So even the traditional means of learning is not available. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Currently now we're thinking ahead how to really equip the schools, the teachers, the students, eventually even us to really be able to respond to this sort of crisis, because it's not the first. Like you said, at the beginning we had Pays Loc, now we have this. So it's twice. It's the second time that schools are being closed. So we are thinking to what our now that we are thinking it's really to provide kids textbooks and reading books so that they can continue their studies despite everything. So as you know, parents not only can afford it, but they can't support the kids themselves in the community that we are. Right. So yeah,
huge stress on the education sector right now. How do you think the diaspora, and this is my last question for you, Cassandre, thank you so much for providing all this insight. How do you think the diaspora can support education and Summit's education specifically in Haiti outside of just remittances? What can we do from where we are?
Like I said, we are, at the beginning of this, you know, and we're trying to really understand what we can do. So far, we thought about the textbooks, you know, how we can provide kids textbooks for now to be able to support their continuous learning. In general, I would, in terms of advice, I would say for the community, the international community, the diaspora, it's really to listen to organizations in general about their needs. And most importantly, very often it will be money so that we can continue the basic things. And just trust that this is, you know, we will take the proper decision. I think, so for now, it's really this campaign that we're gonna fund, and this campaign that will be launched in terms of the specific ask according to the real needs. So for it's textbooks, but eventually we know that this is going to change according to the reality.
Brilliant. So for the diaspora that's tuning in, there's nothing we can do right away. They still need to assess. Bon, voyez l'argent, mais voyez l'argent, faut que connaisse qui côté yo pour dépenser l'argent ça. But it's great to hear that you've already been thinking through the different measures, how to assess it, and what will happen next. Because this is a huge problem for education sector, is how to get resources to the students' hands while asking them to stay at home and homeschool, essentially. Thank you so much, Cassandre. Karel, do you want to give us a summary?
Oui, rapidement.
Rapidement.
Ouais, puis grand problème c'est justement ça fait médicrer des petits moun la caille parce que petits moun yo pas internet, yo pas tablette, yo même livre rempli dans petits moun yo même yo pas gagné, donc c'est très difficile pour petits moun yo continuer, et c'est pas la première fois que ça arrive puisque nous justement nous t'ai vu ça fait pays là déjà. Et puis l'autre bagage encore c'est que ça paralysé toute activité scolaire que lui-même l'État capable de faire, toute l'école qui dans zone là et en Haïti en général. Mais il dit tout que par rapport à, puisque nous dans commencement et confinement, si nous le disons concernant l'affaire de la cahier l'école fermée, besoin qu'on y a, c'est garder comment ils sont capables de bailler si moun sa yo livre avec le son pour eux même ils capable de faire la cahier pour au moins ils capable gagner un bagage dans tête yo avant l'année scolaire la fini. Et puis vous te posez la question par rapport à diaspora, li mandé pour diaspora autant des moun qui dans communauté qui par rapport à besoin yo. Vous capable exactement comment vous capable d'aider. Et une bagaille que certainement vous pas besoin, c'est l'argent pour faire logistique marché, acheter le pour Timonio et permettre que Timonio capable de continuer à apprendre quand même si son année scolaire qui est pratiquement paralysée.
Exactement. Merci, Karel. I think one thing, Cassandre, I don't know if you all have already considered this. There is a company in Haiti that produces tablets, and they might become an important partner for the education system. I don't know how fast they are producing tablets, how many they have that can support the number of schools across the country, but that could be an important partner to look into as you think about how to disseminate information and continue schooling kids from their homes.
Thank you so much, China.
Thank you so much. All right.